Your grandfather could show up at a family gathering broke, and people would still respect him. Your parents could go back home successful, and nobody would treat them like an ATM machine. You don't get that luxury anymore. There's this old saying that's been passed down for generations. When you're broke, don't visit family. When you're rich, don't go back home. And if you've ever experienced either situation, you already know it's brutally accurate. What you might not know is why this ancient wisdom hits so much harder now than it ever did before. The game has fundamentally changed. Human nature hasn't. And if you're still expecting family to operate like they do in the movies, you're going to get hurt hard. Today I'm breaking down why money destroys family dynamics in ways nobody wants to admit, and more importantly, how you protect yourself from both sides of this trap. Let's start with being broke, because this is where most people learn the lesson the hard way. Section 1. The broke trap. Here's what actually happens when you show up to a family gathering with empty pockets. You walk through that door, and immediately, within seconds, you feel the shift. Cold shoulders, suspicious glances, that uncomfortable tension where everyone's doing mental math about why you're there. Not, how have you been? Not, good to see you. Their first thought is, what does he need? What's he going to ask for? You already know this feeling, don't you? That weight in your chest when you realize they're not happy to see you. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Here's the problem. When you don't have money, you become invisible to people. Or worse, you become a burden they're actively trying to avoid. According to basic human psychology, people associate failure with contagion. They genuinely believe your bad luck might rub off on them. It's not rational, it's instinct. You need to borrow $200 to fix your car. Suddenly your cousin who posts vacation photos every month can't come to the phone. Your uncle who just bought a boat, he's tight on cash right now. Your sibling who you helped move 3 times, I'll have to check with my spouse. Friends cross the street when they see you coming. Family members suddenly remember urgent appointments every time you call. You're not imagining it. You're experiencing what researchers call social distancing based on economic status, and it's as real as gravity. It's brutal. You're sitting there in this psychological cage, watching people you grew up with turn cold, while you're beating yourself up inside, wondering what you did wrong. Human connections become as thin as paper. One wrong move, one request for help, and they tear completely. But here's what you need to understand, and this is critical. Being broke doesn't mean you have to think broke. The smartest move you can make when you're in that hole, save yourself. Figure out your own climb out. Stop waiting for family to throw you a rope, because I'm telling you right now, based on how human beings actually behave, they're probably not coming. Look, asking for help is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. You probably won't even try it until you've exhausted every other option, sold everything that isn't nailed down, skipped meals to make rent. And that moment, when you're at your absolute lowest, that's exactly when you need to stay calm and rely on yourself more than anyone else. Spare your relatives the discomfort of having to reject you. Spare yourself the heartbreak of finding out who really shows up when you're desperate. That's not cynicism, that's pattern recognition. The old saying, when you're broke, stay away from family, isn't about being antisocial. It's about self-preservation. It's about understanding that when you're struggling, the last thing you need is more rejection from the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. Section 2. The rich trap. Now let's flip it, because this is where people think the problem disappears. When you're rich, don't return home. You're probably thinking, wait, that should be the victory lap, right? I made it. I've got money. Everyone should be proud. Not quite. Here's what really happens when you return to your hometown with money in your pocket. The moment, and I mean the exact moment people find out you're doing well, every single relative suddenly has a financial emergency. Every old neighbour needs a short-term loan. Every distant cousin you haven't spoken to in 15 years remembers your phone number. And here's the trap that gets you every single time. You help them a little, it's never enough. You help them a lot, they still want more. You say no, boom. Now you're the villain, the ungrateful one, the person who forgot where he came from. According to research on family dynamics and wealth, this isn't random. This is a documented pattern called relative deprivation theory. When someone in the family succeeds, everyone else doesn't feel happy. They feel left behind. And that feeling curdles into resentment faster than you can pull out your wallet. Nobody's first thought when you pull up is, good for him, I'm so proud. What they're really thinking is, oh great, he's back to rub our faces in it, to show us how much better he is now. The more you try to explain that you're not showing off, the more gifts you bring to prove you still care, the more convinced they become that you're secretly looking down on them. I bet you've seen this happen. Maybe to someone you know who left town and made something of themselves, maybe even to you. You're stuck in this no-win situation. Help or don't help. Either way, you're getting drama you absolutely don't need. You help? You're enabling people who'll never stand on their own. They'll spend your money, come back for more, and resent you anyway, because deep down, taking money from family hurts their pride. You don't help? You're arrogant, selfish. You've changed. You're not the same person anymore. There's literally no winning move here. The average person who experiences sudden wealth, whether through a business, inheritance, or career success, loses approximately 70% of their close relationships within 2 years. That's not a made-up number. That's what happens when money enters the equation and people's true natures come out. That's why the elders warned about this for generations. When you're rich, don't go back home. Not because you're too good for where you came from, but because the dynamic has fundamentally changed and there's no going back to how things used to be. You can't unring that bell. Section 3. The brutal truth. You know those old sayings that just cut straight through all the comfortable lies we tell ourselves? With money and wine, you've got plenty of brothers. But when trouble hits, not a soul shows up. Or this one. Fair weather friends are everywhere. Without money or power, don't expect family to stick around. Harsh? Absolutely. But here's the thing. Old sayings don't survive generations by being wrong. They stick around because they keep proving themselves true over and over and over. Society has always been brutally realistic about money and relationships. Always has been, always will be. When you're broke and you visit family, they treat you like a burden they'd rather not deal with. When you're rich and you go back home, they treat you like a walking ATM machine with a guilt button they can press whenever they need cash. And that coldness, when it's coming from your own family, your own blood, people who are supposed to love you no matter what, that's the part that really breaks your heart, isn't it? Some people will always chase money and avoid anyone who doesn't have it. That's reality. That's human nature when you strip away all the pretty words about loyalty and blood being thicker than water. So what do you actually do with this information? You stand on your own 2 feet, period. End of discussion. When things aren't going great for you, work harder, build your wealth, build your strength. Don't sit around waiting for someone to finally care about you. Make yourself strong enough that it doesn't matter whether they do or not. And when you do make it, here's where most people screw it up completely. Stay humble. Don't look down on people who haven't gotten the same breaks you did. Remember where you came from, not by throwing money around trying to prove you still care, but by keeping your values intact and your head clear. When you help people, and you should help people, focus on genuine emergencies, not chronic problems, not enabling someone's refusal to work, not subsidizing someone else's bad decisions. Because if you do that, you'll just end up feeling used and resentful. And that helps nobody, especially not you. There's another saying that ties into all of this perfectly, and I need you to really hear this one. When you're hungry, don't eat onions. They'll burn your chest. When you're broke, don't visit family. They'll break your heart. It's harsh, it's uncomfortable, it sounds cynical and cold, but you know it's real. You've either lived it or watched someone else live it. Section 4. What this means for you. Now look, maybe you're hearing all this and thinking, this is too dark, too cynical. Not everyone is like that. And you're right, not everyone is. But take an honest look at your own life, your own family dynamics, your own experiences with money and relationship. Human relationships exist on a spectrum, warm and cold, fair and cruel, generous and calculating. That's just reality. Pretending it's not doesn't protect you from anything. It just makes you more vulnerable to getting blindsided when reality hits. The uncomfortable truth is that most people will hear everything I just said and ignore it completely. They'll watch this, nod along, maybe even feel uncomfortable recognition for about 36 hours, and then they'll go right back to expecting family to behave like they do in greeting card commercials. They'll convince themselves they're different, that their family is different, that somehow the pattern that's played out across generations and cultures doesn't apply to them, that this time it'll be different. It won't. So what should you actually do? Does this mean you cut everyone off and become bitter and isolated? No. Let me be crystal clear about this. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, open your eyes. Understand the game you're actually playing, not the game you wish you were playing. Protect yourself so you can help others from a position of strength, not from desperation or obligation. When times are tough for you, build yourself up. Don't go looking for validation or help from people who've proven they won't give it. When times are good, stay grounded. Don't flash your success around family unless you want to sign up for permanent resentment and constant requests. Keep your expectations realistic about how people actually behave when money's involved, but don't let that stop you from being generous when you can genuinely afford to be, to people who genuinely deserve it. Because here's what I need you to understand. You can acknowledge this harsh truth and still be a good person. You can protect your peace and still show up for people who actually deserve your energy. You can be wise about human nature without becoming cold yourself. That's the balance. That's the real wisdom here. Success in 2026 isn't about having family who support you no matter what. For most people, that's a fairy tale. Success is having enough resources that it doesn't matter whether they do or not. It's having walking away money. It's the ability to say no to the cousin who wants a loan. It's not being trapped by obligation or guilt. That's wealth. Everything else is just uncomfortable family dinners where people size up your net worth. Nobody wants to believe their own family would treat them differently based on what's in their bank account. I get it. The idea hurts. It contradicts everything we've been told about family loyalty and unconditional love. But generations of people before you have lived this exact pattern and warned you about it for a reason. The pattern doesn't care about your feelings, it just repeats. So take this knowledge, protect your peace, and focus on building a life where you're not dependent on anyone's approval or anyone's handouts. Build your resources when you're down, guard your resources when you're up, and stop expecting family dynamics to operate outside the laws of human nature. Because at the end of the day, the only person guaranteed to be there for you when everything falls apart is you. The only person whose financial decisions actually determine your future is you. And once you really let that sink in, I mean really absorb it and stop fighting it, everything else starts to make sense. You're strong enough to handle this truth. The question is whether you're willing to act on it. The choice has always been yours. Most people just never realize they're choosing.